This is certainly a special edition of our channel, and relates to the spread of coronavirus 2019, COVID 2019. As we are all going through such a challenging situation globally, in particular case of China in Asia and Italy in Europe, the situation has been and still is in some cases severe, but is also recovering in some cases. We have also some good news from the province of China that was initially really under a severe emergency, is now slowly recovering. And in Italy too, we have some positive signs from those regions that were completely isolated as a response to limit the spread of coronavirus. We have some good news in the sense that we see numbers going down in the spread of coronavirus, meaning that that strategy of isolating certain areas can be actually the best strategy at this moment, at this point in time, because we don't have vaccinations, we don't have vaccines, we don't have medicaments, particular drugs against that specific virus. So the best strategy that can be applied seems to be the preventative strategy, meaning isolating areas, isolating people, reduce the aggregation of people so that the virus can be reduced in its spread, right? Now, the point being that many people have been asking around the internet, and I've been specifically asked by clients and friends in regard something about the virus and how the virus can be spread to dogs, right? This is a very difficult question, because we know in general so little about this virus, meaning this is a new virus, right? So we don't know much about that. There are important researchers and research centers that are trying to study the virus and come up with a vaccine, right? But how that can be spread to dogs or our pet animals, that is even it's another layer of difficulty, and cannot be we don't have enough studies materials to answer with full clarity to that question. However, that's very important to say. However, by what the World Health Organization says by present, is that there is no evidence, and I quote, there is no evidence that companion animals, pets such as dogs or cats, can be infected with the new coronavirus. However, it is always a good idea to wash your hands with soap and water after contact with pets. This protects you against various common bacteria such as E. coli and Salmonella that can pass between pets and humans. End of the quote. So basically what they suggest is being alert, don't underestimate what we are going through in this moment. And so there is no evidence that pets can pass the coronavirus to human. Actually, that's unlikely the case, but we cannot really say that 100% for based on what we have now in terms of knowledge and science and data, right? But the common sense and from a health perspective is very good to be very aware, to be alert, and wash your hands after you've been interacting with your dog. Be aware, don't bring your hands towards your nose, your mouth, your eyes, yeah, and certainly in this period, certainly in this period, please avoid to kiss your dog, to put your mouth close to your dog nose, right? Why that? It's not about the dog, actually, right? It's really because we need to try to stay as healthier as possible while being responsible for ourselves, for people around us, and for our community. This is not an individual battle against this virus. That's clear. This is a collective battle, and we have to be responsible for ourselves and especially for others all together, right? So we know how we love our dogs, our pets, our cats, and so on, other animals living with us, but we need to try to be as healthier as possible to avoid to carry around any type of bacteria, right? And I tell you what, that let's say that you just get another type of bacteria and you're gonna have a flu in this period and you are at home. In some cases, the wisest, what you should do is just get yourself isolated for quarantine for 14 days, let's say, right? And you're not gonna know if that's a common flu, another type of flu, or is a coronavirus, right? But why you want to put yourself in this type of situation? Why don't just avoid to be even slightly sick with whatever other type of bacteria? Why don't just avoid that instead than risking that, right? And risking that for yourself, and then other people around you may be concerned, and you may be concerned because if you have that flu and you don't know what that flu is, you may be concerned for your kids, for your parents, for your grandparents, and for elderly people that are around you, in your home, in your condo, in your neighbor, in your community, people you're going to maybe interact with that are at risk, because as we have seen, elderly people are more at risk in the case of coronavirus 19, right? So really avoid to exaggerate, like really not even exaggerate, avoid to have contact with the nose and mouth of your dogs. Try to wash continuously your hand when you interact with your dog. Don't put your hands around your face, nose, eyes, and you should be, let's say, safe, right? Try to apply all those strategies. I want to mention a few more things here. I want to say, when you wash your hands, don't pretend to wash your hands, right? Really, wash your hands. Also for your dog's safety, you may be carrying something because you have maybe touched something around in a public transport or in whatever other places you may have been in contact with. And also there is the other question around, right? Can we spread the coronavirus to our dog, right? So again, this is not a straight answer at this point, but just apply a responsible practice, a responsible behavior, right? So when you are going to interact with our dog, which one way or the other you are going, if you have a dog in your family or a cat in your family, in your home, in your house, right, in your apartment, wash well your hands before interacting with your dog. So not just after interacting with your dog or with your pet, but also before interacting with your pet. And as I was saying, don't just pretend to wash your hands. Some people, I've seen many people that slightly take some soap and just open the fountain, open the water, the sink, and then wash a little bit, and they dry the hands. That's not the way. That's not how we can fight this emergency, this virus in this moment. In this moment, we really need to wash our hands. Does that mean keep your water open for 3 minutes and spread gallons and gallons of water? No, does not mean that. It means open your water, put some soap, make your hand soapy and wet, and then close the water, save the water, and keep scratching your hands for 20, 30 seconds or more if you prefer, in all the possible modalities, all the possible ways, and then after that you open the water again and wash with flowy water very well, and then that can be considered a true hand washing process, right? So it's not about how much water you use, it's about put some good soap around your hands and scratch the hands, because by scratching, let's say in the case you have really the virus carrying around the surface of your hands, by scratching your hands with soap for a certain amount of time, 20, 30 seconds, you will break the surface of the virus, and let's say the power, so to speak, that the virus has will collapse, right? So really wash your hands before interacting with your pets, after interacting with your pets, and try to apply those common and wise practices in your daily routine. So also, I want to mention, somebody has been mentioning all around the internet, it has been on the hit news and the hot news, but also somebody writing to me, what about that dog that was found in somewhere, I don't know, in around China, maybe in Peking, or I don't remember where, positive to coronavirus, even though it was a very weak, a very low level of positivity, right? That news, if you've heard about that news, it was considered controversial at the beginning, because it was not sure if really that dog, which later was put in quarantine with the owner. I mean, the story was that the owner was affected by coronavirus, and then the dog was also found slightly positive to it, right? And I was saying it's controversial because it wasn't clear at the beginning if they found the virus on the body of the dog, somewhere around the dog, or the dog being affected by the virus. There is a crucial difference in that. The dog being affected by the virus means that the virus is already around the organism of the dog, around the metabolism of the body, in the tissues of the dog, and the dog has been affected by it, right? That would be a dog affected. And having the virus on the skin, on the fur, or on the mouth, on the nose, that may have been absolutely taken by the dog by scratching around objects or clothes of the dog owners, right? So the dog owners may have been sneezing on a pillow, for example, and the virus is on that pillow, right? And the dog goes there, lie on the pillow, and get the virus on his body or his mouth, on his nose. That would be different from being attacked by that virus, being affected by that virus, right? So that news has been discussed a lot around the internet, is controversial, but there may be some updates that somebody says, no, actually the dog was really affected by the virus, but maybe that's not significant because it's a very weak level. And somebody is discussing why actually pets, animals and dogs and cats and other common animals that we have in our home as pet companion seem to not being affected by this coronavirus 2019, right? And that's actually the case. We, at least as of now, for how the situation at the moment, there is no such evidence. There are no reports, certainly not alarming reports of people being affected by coronavirus and their pets being also affected, or pets being affected by coronavirus, maybe carrying, being, let's say, contaminated by other pets, interacting with other dogs. Really, there is no alarm at this point. But again, from that point of view, does that mean that we can do everything as we were doing before? Not really. We should be aware of what we are going through, and we should reduce our exposure, our own personal human exposure to other humans in this moment. And I'm gonna spend a few words on this now. We need to reduce our exposure to other humans, and we need to reduce also our pets' exposure to other pets and other animals, right? So why we need to reduce this exposure, as we are saying since the beginning, and as China has applied, Italy has applied to their affected areas, and other countries are slowly also applying, because the virus spreads more when people concentrate more in a certain area, right? The more people are concentrated in a certain area, the more the risk that the virus gets spread, right? So this is a very basic, let's say, lesson in when we study, for example, animal behavior and biology and conservation and ecology, right? And we see that also in nature, that everywhere in nature is applied the same mechanisms, right? And I want to mention, for example, some of you knowing me know that this is my area of interest or expertise, or anyway interest, about wolves and free-ranging dogs and other canids. But let's talk about wolves, for example, right? The function that wolves play in the ecosystem is somehow also that of keeping another population. Let's take, for example, the deer population. The deer population healthy. Why? Because if let's say that there are, in a certain area, there are no wolves, right? Wolves are predator of deer, right? If there are no wolves in a certain area, and in that area there are 100 deer, those deer will move together and will tend to stay all together and forage all together in a certain spot of a certain area, right? So they will aggregate, they will stay closer to each other. So what happens is that if one of that deer has a flu, there is more possibility, there is a higher possibility for that flu to get spread around that group of deer, of 100 deer, because they are all closer to each other, right? So what happens instead, if the wolf is in that area, because of the fear that those deer have of the wolf and the level of alert that they develop to defend themselves or escape from the predator, they will spread around. They will not be in the same spot, but they will move more around a certain territory. So to have more space around and more ability to escape and more, and also they don't forage always in the same spot because they are not so relaxed, right? They don't put the head down, forage on the grass and stay there for ages, right? They put the head down, forage a little bit, make a few steps, maybe with the fast gait, just in case somebody's approaching. I'm already on a fast gait, and then okay, nobody's approaching, I stop again, they stop again, and they forage a little bit, and then they move again, right? So they spread around just because there is a predator in the proximity, right? So what's the function, so to speak, of the wolf in that environment? Is that by the presence of a wolf, it keeps the population of deer more healthier, because they will not aggregate all together in the same spot. And so if one of those deer has the flu, there is way less possibility for that flu to be spread to all of those other, say, for example, 100 individuals, right? So in the first case scenario, where there is no predator, no wolves around, the deer aggregate all together in one spot, and if one has a flu, maybe spreads the flu to other 15 individuals. 1-5, and 1 plus 1-5 is gonna be 16 individuals with the flu, right? But if there is the predator around, those individuals spread, right? So the one that is carrying the flu has a way lower possibility of spreading the flu, because who is around that individual is maybe just another 3 or 4 or 5 individuals, and not all of them are going to be affected, because some of them are very healthy, are young. So maybe instead of another 15 being affected, just 1 or 2 are going to be affected. And so the overall population of deer is going to be healthier, and the flu itself is going to spread way less, because the distribution on that area of those individuals is way larger, and they are spread all around that area, right? And this is the reason why we need to apply the same strategy, and all the governments, also many governments, are applying that same strategies to people, and we should also consider that same strategy for our dogs and pets, for their own safety, for our own safety, and to fight and win together at a collective level this battle against this coronavirus 2019, right? So bottom line, the more we aggregate, as we have seen in this window that I opened, let's say on the ecology and of wolves and deer, for example, right? And how important it is to not aggregate, right? By learning that lesson, that's what we are learning in this moment of life, that by applying that strategy as governments are suggesting, we reduce the risk for everybody, and at the collective level we can win this fight against the virus, right? So it's really in your hands, in your mind, in your responsibility, in our own responsibility, for our own safety, for our dog's safety, and for the collective safety, to try to interact, let's say, to aggregate as less as possible with other people, with other animals in this moment, right? That of course doesn't mean we need to become suspicious of others, right? We still love our friends, our family, our neighbors. We don't have to think that everybody may be carrying something that is lethal for us, right? We don't want to go in that type of panic, in that type of behavior, in that type of mindset. It's not about somebody else maybe is carrying something and it may be dangerous for me. I mean, it is also that level of consideration, but really what should prevail in this moment is that we as a collective, we need to take care of each other by staying a bit more distant from each other, to reduce the increase of the risk, right? And overcome this moment of emergency, while we buy, so to speak, some time, and we understand more the mechanisms and the dynamics, how the virus is moving around, what type of numbers is producing, what type of strategies governments and all the systems can apply to avoid for the risk to be spread, right? So we need to buy some time, so to speak. We need to reduce the risk right now, and this is the responsibility for all of us. So going back to our pet, try to go out the most essential, I mean, in a way that is essential. Don't go out so much. Go out, of course, your pet needs to go out 3-4 times per day, so you can keep that common practice, but try to not interact much with other people. I mean, you can interact, but keep a distance, right? Keep a distance of a few 4 or 5 feet, or 1.5 meters, right? And so that there is no less possibility for the virus to walk, so to speak, walk around from body to body, from person to person, and maybe, if that's the case, also between animals, from dog to dog, right? Which again, we have said that that's maybe not necessarily the case, and we don't know yet if we don't know yet if that's the case, right? Of course, if you see that your dog is showing your dog or cat or other pets is showing signs of weakness or of flu or and some sort of sudden disease, of course, as usual, you be in touch with your veterinarian, call your veterinarian and ask for advice. And if the veterinarian suggests to bring the animal to the clinic, then you may follow that practice, right? Unless it's something absolutely urgent, I suggest call your veterinarian first and follow advice of the veterinarian instead of bringing your dog or cat over the clinic, right? That's another preventative measure, as consistently with what we were saying before. We try to go to reduce the aggregation of people and animals. So can you imagine if 10 people and 10 dogs and 10 cats are all together in a waiting room of a veterinarian clinic? That increases the exposure among people, for sure, of the coronavirus, and also of whatever other bacteria among the animals, right? So that's better to avoid in this moment. So again, I was saying, if you see your dog or cat behaving in a way that is odd and you think is sick, search for advice by phone, connecting with your veterinarian. And okay, that's pretty much all for those aspects. I wanted to share all of those considerations. Remember, you can check the World Health Organization guidelines and updates on their web page. This is probably the most regarded, or anyway among the most regarded sources of information relating to the coronavirus 2019 and other global diseases. And also, I want to give my shout out to Italy. As most of you know, Italy is being and is still the most affected country in Europe at the moment, and is responding to the emergency in a way that is really an example for many, right? The Italian government is applying many measures to reduce the aggregation of people. Actually, yesterday night, the Prime Minister announced that the whole Italy will be under the same rules and regulations till the beginning of April. So the common practice of not leaving home or going out just for what is really needed, buying something, food, or not traveling between across regions of the country, and moving around just for serious reasons, working reasons and health reasons, right? So reducing, closing universities and schools, and not aggregating in other public events, theaters, museums, everything is closed in Italy. So it's tough. It's certainly tough for the people, for the economy, and also for the sanitary system, which I want to shout out to, because it's one of the most, if not the best sanitary system in the world. Allow me this expression. And all the country and the sanitary system is responding promptly and with the best possible way to save all the possible lives, even though some have passed. And unfortunately, that's what makes this emergency serious and sad. And with important repercussions, with important consequences for the economy, because you have to imagine this country is now blocked, stuck somehow. A lot of activities and work are on hold, right? Everything is frozen. I mean, not everything, but most of the country is frozen, and certain other services are granted. Food is available in supermarkets, and clinics are open, hospitals are open, people at the sanitary service are working night and day and night and day and night and day non-stop to face the emergency. And this is really an example for me of how a community responds together, from the top, from the politician to the bottom, so to speak, the community people, to cohesively to the emergency, to a country emergency, to a continental emergency, to a global emergency. And I hope that can be also as an example of good practices, and that can help also other places where the coronavirus may be spread, and maybe the numbers are going to increase in the next few weeks. So again, my shout out to Italy for what they're doing, and my hat goes off to Italia for that. So that's really all. If you have any questions, please let me know with the comment, or you can contact me. The very last tip I can give, if you are, there are actually two last tips I want to give. One is try to listen different sources of news, so you can put together all the pieces and you can understand more broadly what's going on, not just in your area, not just in your country, but also globally about this virus. And don't listen just the mainstream news, but also go to search from other news, right? So you can have different voices coming to your ear, and putting together all of those informations, you have a broader understanding. And secondly, if you happen to be isolated, if you happen to be in self-quarantine, or your government rules out that you must be, as a citizen, you must be in quarantine, or anyway, you're gonna spend a lot of time at home, you're gonna go out less. I want to also say this is a wonderful opportunity, extremely wonderful opportunity to invest time in yourself, on your family, by spending time with people of your family, by doing things at home, by studying. You have huge, enormous opportunities to study online interesting topics about animals, dogs. I have also some programs if you want to check, but not necessarily. You can study about engineering, you can study about global health, you can study about nuclear power, or about ecosystem, or environment, or economy, or geography, story, whatever you want to study. You will find programs online, and this is a wonderful moment to invest on yourself and take the good point of this emergency. If you need to be at home, leverage that situation as an opportunity to learn something new, and when all of these will be over, you will have some new skills. Maybe you will have some new understandings on your area of expertise, or maybe you've been learning something new in your life, right? So take the best advantage. Use this time as an opportunity, and that's what we can do. You know, that's how we can leverage positively what's going on. So if you happen to be at home, enjoy your family and enjoy some movie, enjoy your time at home, and please don't underestimate the value that this moment may have for you to learn something new. That's very important. Learning is reformulating yourself and upgrading yourself to another stage of your life. So keep that in mind, and be safe. Apply the guidelines that your governments provide. Apply the guidelines and the common practice that are in general suggested for this moment in life. Keep yourself safe, keep your dogs and animals safe, reduce aggregation with others, interact with the distance from others, people and animals, and all the best to you. And whatever you want to say, write me, leave a comment, and be in touch and being together, because this is a collective, as we have said many times in this recording. This is a collective battle, and we must be together. We must provide information to each other. We must provide support and advice, and also good ideas to each other to cope with this moment at the best, individually, as a community and collective. All the best to you. Bye bye.